This first passage set gives us the A-B set. And let's start by talking about the passages. Passage A is kind of like, I don't know. Muscle memory might be because of neurons and the number of fibers in your muscles. Or it might be all in your head, man. And by contrast, passage B is much more definitive. She is making an argument. Muscle memory does have a physiological cause. It is the stem cells merging with the muscle cells to create extra nuclei. And those extra nuclei. And notice it's a little bit similar, at least in its kind of process, to the first possibility discussed in passage A, where it was like you just make these extra muscle, you use these extra muscle fibers. In passage B, it's not muscle fibers, it's extra nuclei, but same kind of principle, right? You create these extra nuclei, and then even when the muscles shrink, you still got those nuclei ready to work when you go back to lifting, getting swole. All right, so with a good idea of each passage's main point and their relationship to one another, we're ready to answer some questions, and we're going to concern ourselves with why these right answers are right. Question number one, this is basically a main point question. What is a question that both passages are trying to answer? Why does muscle memory exist? What is muscle memory? That's the ability for you to build muscle more quickly once you restart than you were able to when you first started. And there's your answer choice C. Why is building muscle easier for people who've already done so? Why does muscle memory exist? And you see how for every one of these, there's an answer here, right? I mean, it's not just like picking the best choice. It's picking something that you know to be true based on what you read. Question 2, something that B does that A does not do. And why is answer choice B correct? Because in line 52, we do, in fact, discuss a specific scientific study. Did we ever do that in passage A? No, we did not. And that is what we want from the right answer. Something that we can put our finger on and say, yes, here it is, and it ain't nowhere else. For question 3, the same question as question 2, something that B does that A does not do. And B gives us this, didactic, advocative explanation that it is the result of the extra nuclei provided by stem cells. That's what B does that A never talks about, and there's your answer choice A. And I'm just going to repeat myself from question 2. That's what you want. You have to be able to say, here it is in the passage. That's what we can do, and that's why it's the right answer. For question 4, how do we support answer choice C? How do we know that that's the right answer based on the text? Well, in order to say that passage A was not aware of something that happened in passage B, you've really got to have passage A saying something like, there's just no real explanation, and then have passage B come along and offer a scientifically based explanation. Kind of like exactly what happened in these passages. A is all, I don't know, it might be muscle fibers, it might be all in your head. B is very specific and gives us the research. What do we know about A? A must not know about that research. Must is probably strong, but notice that the test writers didn't put it that strongly. A was probably not aware of the research, and we can support that because if A had been aware of that research, she would have brought it up, right? She wouldn't have acted like it's a big mystery when B has already cracked the case. Question 5, why is answer choice D best? Look at the pronouns in passage A. I'm in the second paragraph. The neurons that stimulate your muscles. It's well established that only a small percentage are recruited, and the more weight you lift, the more neurons are involved. And throughout the whole passage, you, your. This is talking to somebody who is involved in the process. This is talking to bodybuilders, people who lift. As opposed to passage B, which is very much not. Look at that first sentence. Pumping up's easier for people who have been buff before. Not us. People. It's talking about others. This is not specifically geared toward any audience, right? I mean, it is not for the scientist because it approaches it as though we don't know what the science is, going so far as to explain to us what nuclei are, right? And the size of muscle cells. These are things a scientist would have some familiarity with, yeah? So in the pronoun usage in passage A and in the generalized didactic nature of passage B, we get the sense that passage A was written for bodybuilders. Passage B was just written for a wider audience. That's how we know that answer choice D is the right answer here. So for question 6, the first sentence of passage A, well, that's the part where she said it's puzzling. What would passage B say about that first sentence? And you can answer this on your own without any recourse or any further recourse to the passages that we've already seen. What would passage B say about it? No, it's not puzzling. It's not puzzling. What are you talking about? I know exactly why it happens. So for our right answer, we want something that would indicate passage B thinks that characterization is not correct. And look how couched answer choice D is in soft, moderated language. It is less apt now. It's less puzzling. See, I would state it more strongly. The test writer's always going to say it in as weak as possible terms. Finally, question 7 may possibly be the most time-consuming question that we answer. I mean, we got to go through each of those answer choices saying, did passage A say this? And if it did, then I'll check it off. But it can't be hard, you know. I mean, 4 of these things are in passage A. Answer choice A, the condition of a person's muscles. That's passage A. That's that second paragraph. Talks about the conditions your muscles are in when you start your retraining again. It is there. Answer choice B, the adaptation to exercise. Again, that whole second paragraph of passage A, it's there. How do the muscles adapt? By using more. And you can answer the question, right? How do they adapt? By using more muscle fibers. That's how you know it's in the passage. C, the percentage of muscle fibers used. I mean, that's just all of paragraph 2 of passage A. So far, 3 for 3 from one source in passage A. Answer choice D, the prevalence of discussions of muscle memory in scientific publications. And this is what I was talking about. Like, I don't know, I didn't remember passage A talking about the prevalence in scientific publications, but I go back to the passage and there it is in line 3. There are virtually no discussions in scientific publications. And if you can develop a skill for skimming for keywords, it can help in this kind of nonsense when you've got to find a specific answer that's in a passage. A, B, C, D, all mentioned in passage A. What about answer choice E, the large amounts of protein? Well, passage B does talk about it, and again, you can do that by skimming them in line 44, the large amounts of proteins that give muscles their strength. It's there. And it's just not mentioned in passage A, and that is what we needed for our answer, and that is why answer choice E is correct, and that finishes this first passage.